In honor of the 4th of July, I want to tell you a story that is true and hopeful and helpful. And it takes place during the middle of this very challenged season. Our story begins in Aleppo, Syria, concerns a man named Abdul Qadir Hayani. And at the age of 9, he drops out of school and he decides to become a tailor. And he apprentices himself to a tailor, and Abdul Qadir Hayani becomes a truly great master tailor, starting at 9. And as he grows into adulthood, he develops his own tailoring business. And before you know it, he's got one of the most thriving tailoring businesses in Aleppo. He's got a number of sewing machines and a number of employees, and things are going great. Gets married, starts to have kids, a young growing family, a nice business, and then the Syria's civil war. Aleppo, his hometown, is reduced to rubble and ruins, and his business is no more. Abdul Qadir Hayani and his young wife Asma and their growing family flee from Syria. They flee from the civil war, and they go to Jordan. In Jordan, they apply for refugee status. They try to seek asylum in the United States of America. It's July 4th. And they wait and wait and wait for 5 years. They're in limbo in Jordan. 5 years later, permission is granted. So one fine day in 2017, Abdul Qadir Hayani, his wife Asma, and 4 young children, the oldest is 9, they land at Logan Airport. They're going to move and begin their new life, all legal, all proper, all with the right paperwork, in Greater Boston. And when they land at Logan, they are met by a team of volunteers from our sister synagogue temple, Beth Elohim in Wesley. And these volunteers from TBE are going to help them find housing, an apartment in Framingham. They're going to help them get technology, screens, devices, computers. They're going to help them get clothing. They're going to help them get groceries. They're going to help them learn how to apply for a job in America. They're going to help them navigate American culture and English language, etc. Roll the film forward. Things are actually going well for the Hayani family. Abdul Qadir Hayani gets a job as a tailor in a very fine haberdashery. He's very happy in his new job. His 4 kids, meanwhile, love America. They're just taking to America. They love American culture, American sports, and they are speaking English like natives, unaccented. They love it. In fact, their parents worry that the kids are going to lose their Arabic. After all they've been through, Syrian civil war, the loss of a business, 5 years in limbo, the trials and tribulations of starting your life over as an immigrant, having to learn a whole new language. Imagine if you moved to an Arabic culture and you just, in order to do anything, you had to speak Arabic. So they didn't know English. In order to do anything, they had to speak English. After all that, it's finally working. Job, school, happy. And then COVID-19. Abdul Qadir Hayani loses his job. The tailor shop in the haberdashery closes because the haberdashery closes. All 4 kids are home from school. They now wake up in their rented home in Framingham. And now what? Brokenness, disruption. In his opening lecture at the Hartman that Amy talked about, Danielle began with the proposition that we are all broken. Brokenness is something that we all share in this hard season. And he said something that's just so real and revealing. He said, you know how people have social niceties, when you see somebody in the checkout counter. You'll say, "Everything okay?" And he said, what does it even mean to say everything okay when you can't say it? The expected answer of everything okay is, yeah, everything is great. Everything is great. Never better. Everything is fine. But what happens when you can't say that because nothing is okay? Everything okay? No. Nothing is okay. And every one of us feels our own version of that kind of brokenness. I feel this every day. By the way, I feel this right now. I feel this every day because, my colleagues and I are in the Gann Chapel every morning in an empty chapel, and our friends are on the Zoom, and it's a holy cacophony of voices, and it's the new normal. But that's not okay. And you're here. I can sense your presence. We could see some of you here. And that's the new normal, but that's not okay. And this is the 14th week of this, by the way. 14th week. 14th Shabbat in an empty sanctuary except for David Beckman, the clergy, and you on live stream and on the screen. And it's not just the clergy who think that this is not okay. I'm hearing increasingly from members that Zoom doesn't work, live stream doesn't really work for me. It's not okay. I got an email this week from a woman who is a member of Temple Emmanuel. She is actually Jewish. And she wrote to tell me that she's now attending services at a local Catholic church because it's in-person religious services. And she said, "Don't worry, I'm not taking communion, and I am not kneeling on the altar, but I just need to pray with people." Everything okay? Nothing is okay. So how do we think about nothing is okay? So this is Daniel Hartman's evocative and quite unexpected imagery when he talks about how to think about nothing is okay. You'll forgive me if I take off my tallis for the moment, because I need to simulate something. Daniel's gift that he gave us, this unexpected image, is from basketball. Think about a basketball game, and his question is, you've got the ball, and the play is not going well, and you're kind of stuck, and there's no ready way for you to shoot, and there's no ready way for you to pass. What do? And Daniel points out that if you walk like this, like you try to get out of here, then that's called traveling, and the other team gets the ball. So you can't do that. So if you're stuck, you can't just leave. But here's what you can do. And I just love this. Who knew that Daniel Hartman knew basketball? He points out that there's a move called the pivot move, and here's how it works. One foot has to stay firmly planted in the ground. One foot has to stay, so you can't travel. But with the other foot, you're allowed to pivot, to move in different directions. So I can't pass here, but maybe I can pass here. Or I can't shoot here, but maybe I can shoot here. And so you go like this, one foot firmly planted, the other foot moving and grooving until you find a new move, the pivot. And so here was his question: where is your foot firmly planted? Where is it that you are not going to move? Because your foot is planted there because that's who you are. And it's eternal, and it's essential, and it's core. And it's not changing. Even now, it's not changing. And where are you going to pivot? What are you going to do that's a new move, a new direction, so that you can find a new way to accomplish your timeless purpose? So, in our reading this morning, Moses has to pivot. Moses has a brutal portion in Chukat. He loses both of his siblings in our reading this morning. He loses his sister Miriam this morning. He loses his brother Aaron in the same portion this morning. Now, anyone who has lost a sibling knows that there are no words to take in the sadness of losing a sibling. Your sibling is the person who has known you longest other than your parents. Your sibling has known you your whole life. You have known your sibling their whole life. You and your sibling just go way back to the beginning of time. You and your sibling are intertwined for all of the complexity of any human relationship. You and your sibling go way back. When you lose your sibling, it's like losing yourself. And Moses loses both in the same parsha. Miriam, who went way back, Miriam literally walked with baby Moses in the wicker basket, trailing along to make sure that he ends up okay at the Pharaoh's palace. Aaron walks with Moses in the most scary moments, trepidatious moments, the oh my God moments when Moses, with his concern about speaking, has to confront the Pharaoh, let my people go so they can serve God. And now they're both gone. And now Moses has 38 more years to lead the people without his brother, without his sister. What is he going to do? And the answer is he pivots. He plants one foot in his core principle, his core principle is strengthen the relationship, the covenant between God and Israel. That's what his life is. Strengthen the covenant between God and Israel. But now he's got to pivot. So he did that originally by being a liberator. Confronts the Pharaoh, let my people go. And then he did it by being the lawgiver. He comes down Sinai with 2 tablets of stone. And now being a liberator doesn't work, and now being a lawgiver doesn't work. He needs a new move. And so Moses has to do something he never thought he would do. He has to do something he never thought he could do. He didn't think he was capable of doing what he now has to do. When God summoned him at the burning bush, Moses says, Lo ish devarim anochi. I'm not a speaker, I'm not a talker, I'm not a man of words. And now Moses has to become the author of Sefer Devarim, the book of words. He has to give speeches that make the case to the Israelites. They should take Torah and mitzvah seriously. Moses' world had totally changed. His sister was gone. His brother was gone. He faced his own mortality. But his mission did not change. The world changed. The mission did not change. He accomplished his mission through a whole new move, through his pivot, through his words. What is our core? Where is our foot firmly planted? What is our pivot? What are our new moves? And that brings us back to Abdul Qadir Hayani, the morning after he lost his job. His kids are home from school. There are strangers in a strange land trying to pick things up, and lockdown. What do? So what's his core? His core is, first of all, he's a very grateful person and a loving person. He felt a lot of gratitude to America for taking his family in. His core was decency and humanity. He really wanted to be helpful to people. His core was his wife was home and his 4 kids were home, and he wanted something they could all do together. His core was he's a really good tailor. The guy was amazing with sewing and needles and thread. That's his core. What's his pivot? What's his new move? So Abdul Qadir Hayani thought, what is it that the world now needs? And how can that need meet what I can do to be helpful to that need? And the answer in time was obvious. Masks. What does the world need? Masks. What can he do? Make masks. He had never done it before, but he quickly figured out how to do it. And before you know it, Abdul Qadir and Asma and their 4 kids were working every day and creating 60 masks a day. Mustafa, his now 12-year-old son, was running the machines, and the 3 younger kids were snipping and scissoring the threads. And at the end of the day, they would have 60 masks to give out to people who needed masks. But not only that, he telephoned his supporters and friends and volunteers from Beth Elohim, and he said, "Can I teach you how to make masks so that Beth Elohim will generate lots of masks?" And they said yes, and they did it. He had never before made a mask. He had never before taught people how to make a mask. He had never before used Zoom. But he did all of these pivots to accomplish his intended purpose of humanity, decency, and gratitude. Moses had to learn to become a speaker in a whole new world to advance his cause of strengthening the relationship of God and the Jewish people. Abdul Qadir Hayani and his family had to learn how to make masks and to teach others to make masks, to create enough masks and more masks in the world in which we now live. So here's your question for the 4th of July. Where is your foot firmly planted? What is the core that makes you, you? The thing that you're not going to change. The thing that you live for. The thing that you're about. The thing that nothing, not even COVID-19, can change. Where is one foot firmly planted? And what's your pivot? What are the new moves that you're going to take that will allow you to accomplish your timeless purposes? Happy birthday, America. Shabbat Shalom.